Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be traveling to Japan to attend the G7 summit. Japan is the chair of the grouping and has invited India. We know that earlier this year, the Japanese Prime Minister was in India. With me is the Indian Ambassador to Japan to talk about this relationship and, of course, the visit of the Indian Prime Minister. Let me start about this visit. The Indian Prime Minister comes to Japan. What's the key focus like when it comes to his visit to Japan? He has been to Japan several times in the past, and we saw the close camaraderie he had with the Japanese leadership, including Shinzo Abe.
Thank you, Sidhant. We are looking forward to the visit of Honorable Prime Minister starting tomorrow. As you said, Prime Minister of Japan, Mr. Kishida, had visited India in March this year, personally invited our Prime Minister to come to Japan to participate in the G7 summit. So we look forward to this tomorrow. This is a very important visit. As you said, we have an excellent bilateral relationship between India and Japan. This visit will further reinforce that relationship.
Further reinforce the relationship. Japan has invited India to attend the G7 summit's proceedings. We know in the past as well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has attended G7 summits. Last year it was Germany, France as well, virtually when it comes to UK. So how do you see this invitation by the Japanese side to India, to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to attend the summit?
See, it is an important occasion to participate in the G7 summit. India today is the largest populated country in the world. India is the fifth largest economy in the world, largest democracy in the world, fastest growing large economy in the world. All this, and India being the chair of G20. So India is coming here as a very important partner of the Committee of Nations, as a leader coming here to represent India as the 1/6 of the population of the world and a growing economy. At the same time, also, we are one of the important countries in the global south. So it's a very important participation that India will have in the G7 summit starting tomorrow.
So when it comes to the agenda of Prime Minister here in Hiroshima, if you can highlight it or talk about it. Hiroshima is a city which has a history as well. India, of course, its presence here, how do you see that as well? If you can give or shed light on that.
See, as you mentioned, there are two elements to it. One is our bilateral relationship. We have a special strategic and global partnership which was established during the visit of Prime Minister in 2014 with the then Prime Minister, Mr. Abe. And this relationship gets reinforced each time there is a visit takes place, there is a bilateral summit takes place. That is one element of it. Second, participation in the G7. There are so many interesting and important issues that our Prime Minister would be dealing with during this visit.
Sir, talking about the relationship in terms of the societies of two countries, if you can talk about that, the plan to connect Mount Fuji with Himalayas and Mahatma Gandhi as well, a symbol of peace in this city. If you can talk about that.
See, one important element of our relationship is the people-to-people connect. And this has been growing very well for the last few years, and we see a momentum for India in Japan. This year we are celebrating the India-Japan Year of Tourism with the theme Connecting Himalayas with Mount Fuji. So I see a growing partnership also at the people-to-people level, which would be further strengthened due to this visit.
So when it comes to this entire visit and focus areas, we know that a lot of things will be on the table at the G7 summit. One has been the Russia-Ukraine conflict. What will be the Indian stance when it comes to this conflict that has been a point of conversations in G7 grouping and of course the global capitals as well. So what's New Delhi's stance and what will New Delhi talk about at the G7 summit regarding this specific issue?
India's position on Ukraine-Russia issue has been well articulated by our leadership on multiple occasions, including in the UN Security Council when we were member of the UN Security Council. India's position is very clear. Our Prime Minister has stated it clearly that this is an era of peace and not an era of war. That continues to be India's position on Russia-Ukraine issue.
So there are several areas of convergences between India and Japan. One has been the reform of the Security Council. Both have been very keen on that. What kind of conversations have been happening when it comes to UNSC, and what's your view when it comes to reforms? Because it looks like the reforms are taking place at a snail pace.
If one thing the whole world agrees is that there is a need for immediate reform. 1/6 of the total population of the world is not represented in the UN Security Council. There has to be a change, and we are always in constant touch with the like-minded countries on this.
Ahead of the G7 summit, we saw also a lot of ministerial visits. A lot of Indian ministers came to Japan. If you can talk about their visits, what were the key focus areas?
See, India actively participated in many of the G7 ministerial meetings. Our finance minister was here, our IT minister was here, our environment minister here, and also our health minister. So India actively participated in the outreach sessions on this. India's presence is reflective of the growing importance of India in this field. For example, IT, India had a digital transformation on the digital sector, which would help the world. We have seen it during the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, how the CoWIN platform, which we have generated, helped not only India, but also rest of the world. So there are so many areas where the world has found it is important to engage India, and this is what we were seeing it during the G7 ministerial meeting.
So my last question to you is on the Indo-Pacific vision. India has been a strong supporter of a free and open Indo-Pacific. The Japanese Prime Minister chose New Delhi to lay out his vision of the Indo-Pacific. So what are the parallels between the two sides regarding this vision, as how both countries are cooperating regarding this specific idea?
See, we stand together for peace and stability in Indo-Pacific. This is an area we have been cooperating and talking and engaging for a long time, and we will continue to further engage on this very important element of freedom and stability in the Indo-Pacific. And also there are so many other important elements, concrete topics we are working on, including supply chain resilience initiative, like that.
And I believe both countries are keen to work in third country as well, and there have been projects as well in third country.
See, we work together for the peace and stability and prosperity of the region.
Well, thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure speaking to you here in the historic city of Hiroshima, and I believe Hiroshima will send a message, given that it's hosting the G7 summit, and the fact that Indian Prime Minister will also be present. His presence will be seen in a different aspect and will send more messages as well. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.